Welcome to the Elevating Funeral Service podcast. If you want to run a successful funeral home, cemetery, or pet cremation service, you don't have to be the one that has the lowest price. You do need to be the one that offers the most value, provides the best customer experience, and clearly communicates that in your marketing. On this weekly podcast, Ellery and Welton will show easy ways to demonstrate value to families and create differentiation that helps you stand out from the competition. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Elevating Funeral Service. I'm with my good friend Welton Hong. I'm Ellery Bowker, and this is the podcast where we teach funeral homes and cemeteries how to add more value, how to create a better customer experience, and ultimately how to help you be more competitive by standing out from the competition. We've got a great episode today. It's actually part 2 of an episode we're doing on posting funeral prices online. Welton, how are you?
Doing awesome. Just having fun, as always, teaching. It's always our passion, as you know. Just love teaching.
Good. How's business going? Good?
Business is going good. Just like the more we educate the funeral profession, right, elevating the whole funeral service, the better it is, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Our business is down a little bit in some areas, and in some areas it's kind of up a little bit, so it's kind of balancing it out. But I mean, compared to others, I'm super fortunate and really grateful for that. So, and grateful for the funeral homes that let us serve them just as you are.
Right.
Okay, kind of jumping right in. Everyone, this is going to be a really fun episode. And the reason being is we had the first part of it on the last episode where we talked about posting funeral prices online. And what we talked about was 2 things. We talked about why we tried to make a case why you should post funeral prices online. And then we tried to talk about why funeral homes don't post funeral prices online. So we kind of hit on some of the concerns. Just to kind of as a recap, if you didn't listen to the last episode, I encourage you to do that. But just kind of as a recap, on the question of should you post your funeral prices online, instead of asking the funeral home that question, what we thought we might do is flip that around and say, what if we asked 3 questions about the consumer? And the 3 questions we asked was, do you think the consumers want to see prices online? That answer was yes.
Yes.
The second question we asked was, do you think they expect to see prices online? And that was absolutely, right? Well, that's definite yes.
Definitely.
And the third question was, do you think it would be helpful for them to see prices online as they do their research?
Yes.
And I would agree. I would agree with yes as well. The second part of the last episode was we talked about why don't funeral homes put their prices online. So what are the main concerns? And the 3 we identified is, number 1, they're afraid their competitor is going to use that price against them. That's something that I've heard. 2, they don't feel like they can give an accurate price without asking the family questions first. Sure. And I think that's a legitimate reason. You know, they want to know more about that family so they can really give them an accurate price. And then the third is they don't feel like they can justify that price without meeting with the family. In other words, they don't want to just put a price out there without kind of explaining to that family everything that goes into that price, everything they're getting with that price, et cetera. Right. So hopefully, if you listen to the last episode, we hope we've convinced you that you should put your prices online. If we've not convinced you or you don't think it's a good idea, then you probably should just stop listening now, because we're going forward assuming that you think it's a good idea. And now on this episode, we want to talk about how to do it. So
you still get some good tips for sure. Hopefully we can convince you. You don't need to put everything on your website. It's just mainly to instill trust.
Yep, absolutely. And I think what we've come up with on this episode, I think, is practical, which the whole idea about this podcast is that we bring you practical stuff that you can take away and start doing it. And ultimately, doing things that add more value for the family, kind of one step at a time. And this is just one step. So we're gonna talk to you about how to show your prices online, and obviously we're going to show you good ways, which means there are bad ways. Okay, so if there are good, there must, by definition, there must be bad, and we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to redact any names, so we're not going to call anybody out. But we are going to show you some examples of what is a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. Before we start doing that, I think I want to identify the 4 ways that you could show your prices online, if that's okay with you, Welton, and then we'll
Yes.
back up and talk about each one of those kind of in depth a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the 4 ways you could post your prices online would be: 1, you could post your GPL. Okay, and just leave it at that.
Full GPL.
Yep, the full GPL, which some do, or you could show ranges or pricing that starts at. That's the second option.
Yes.
A third option would be you could show packages.
Right.
And a fourth option is you could use a quote builder or a price builder, right? Where you could, somebody could come up with a price. So let's start and let's jump right in there. Let's talk about the GPL. So I've seen a lot of funeral homes put their GPL on there, and that's it. What do you think about that idea, if it's just the GPL?
Me personally, as a consumer, I do not understand a GPL, unfortunately. As a consumer, to me, it's the same as not putting on there, because to me, it confuses me even more to have the whole complete GPL on there.
Just because of the length and the depth of
the
it?
Length, the depth, multiple pages, right? Do I need refrigeration or not? As a consumer, even I'm in a death care industry, I still don't understand that. Right. It's confusing.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. I think they're complicated, right? I think that in the funeral business, we get so used to seeing them all the time, and funeral directors get so used to explaining them that maybe we don't remember how confusing it could be to a layperson. I think a GPL just needs a helper, right? It needs somebody explaining it to them. And if you're just putting the GPL on the website, I don't think that that's going to suffice, because that helper's missing, right? And so I think that may confuse them a little bit. I will tell you that, just in my opinion, if you're going to put the GPL on there, I think you need to add the helper, right?
Definitely.
And the helper.
I love that.
Well, actually, let me back up and say one other thing. I saw one today, doing a little bit of extra research on this, where they had the GPL on there, and it was just a PDF, and it said, download our price list here.
Wow.
That is probably not a good idea, because nobody really wants to download a price list. If I'm looking for pricing, if you can't show it to me on the website, I'm probably going to bounce. So if you're gonna have it downloaded, just put it on there, right? You can have the download option, but don't have only the download option.
Right. And that's a lot of funeral homes like that, because you have to download a full PDF document. It's not viewable online.
Right. Now, I do know some states require you to do that. I believe California is one of them. And so that's fine. And if you need to do that for compliance, but don't just do that. That's my point. Don't just do that. So that's not a great experience for the consumer. If it were my funeral home, what I would try to do, if I'm going to put the GPL on there, I would try to have some kind of something on there that would explain what the funeral pricing is in generalities. My best suggestion would be to put a video. If you're the funeral home owner, grab a phone, doesn't have to be fancy, just take a video and explain the different sections, right? You don't have to do every line item, but you could say, here's what the basic services mean, here's what goes into that. Here's what a cash advance means. Like, cash advance to a layperson is the shady check cashing place, or it's a payday loan. But explain what a cash advance is, right? Explain what non-declinable means, in the context of the GPL. So I would suggest a video. I think it's something that you could do in 3 or 4 minutes. You can pop it up there, and that would give some immediate trust. Right?
I agree. Faces means trust. Oh, yeah.
Faces means trust. I love that. Well, and faces means trust. So, again, just make it as easy as the customer can be. So let's move on. The second option would be to show ranges. And I know you're a fan of this. Kind of explain what that means and why you're a fan of that.
Right. So some of them, right, if you just put from 1,200, from 1,500, that at least let people know that, hey, this is the minimum price. Some of them will wow them. It's like, wow, that's it, right? At least they know, okay, it starts at many websites, not just even the funeral industry. A lot of other industries, it always starts at or from a certain price. So at least expectations-wise, it's met, okay, it's approximately this range. I can easily afford it. Because if I have $8,000 to spend on a funeral, now at least I know, wow, that's the range. I can easily afford this, right?
Yeah, I love what you just said there. It allows you to look at the range. I was on a website today looking at a gifting option, where you can send customers corporate gifts. And I remember seeing it, it said shop by price, right?
Uh-huh.
And you could see what you could buy for
Right,
$50, what you could
right.
buy. And in the context of the ranges, what I like about that is I think about somebody who's never planned a funeral before. And if their mom is passing away and they
Hmm.
have a policy for $5,000, they
Right.
have no idea what that buys them. But
Yep.
if they go to your website and they can see that, basic cremation starts from, right,
Hmm.
a cremation with a memorial service starts from, it
Right.
allows them to kind of see what they can buy. And I think underlying, it may actually help you because now that consumer realizes they can have more
Hmm.
because you're showing them what they can get
Right.
for that. So I love that. My only suggestion on that would be to, and I guess it's for all of the funeral pricing options, would be to use language that the consumer can understand. Right?
Hmm. Definitely.
Use language that's compassionate and they can understand it. So one
Right.
example I might give would be instead of I've seen it and I think this is just as a consumer I think it's a bad way to say it, but it would be removal. And I saw one the other day where it said removal up to 50 miles, and I thought this
Triple
just
A towing.
yeah. That's a great point. I felt like this is freight or
Right.
this is a package or something. So we looked at one a few minutes ago before we started. You and I did, and it said instead of removal, it would say transfer of your loved one into our care.
Right.
It's just changing
Yeah.
words.
Well.
It's just a new word, but it gives such a better feeling, and it
Oh
just
yeah.
demonstrates compassion
Oh yeah.
to that person because you know, and people have talked about it about using words like body and things
Right.
like that. Like just you want to use sensitive language, and then when you're talking about what they're buying, use language that they can understand.
Right.
So, do you have any other advice on that on using language?
So,
You see quite a bit of this.
so I have clients. Maybe I can share my screen then, just for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And for those of you that are listening, we're probably going to show quite a bit on this episode. So if you want, you can just go to elevatingfuneralservice.com and watch this episode.
Right.
Or if you go there, every screenshot that we're going to show right now, we're going to make into an image or a PDF that'll actually be on that page. So Welton, right now,
Right.
I'm going to kind of sportscast this for you. He's showing a website where you come to it and it literally just says, I just want cremation. And then it has a price. So you kind of take it from there, Welton. But if you are
Right.
listening, you can go to the website and you can see what he's talking about here. So kind of walk him through what you're
Right.
showing him.
Right. So exactly, this is the homepage. Once somebody lands on their website, and it's called above the fold before people start scrolling down. Right. So this above the fold. It says, "I just want cremation." Big bold letters on there, and then with a dollar sign, 11.95 right below that. And then right underneath that says all inclusive pricing, no hidden fees, same price statewide, arrange now. Simple, right? Very, very simple.
It's trustworthy, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm seeing, just those words, no hidden fees, gives me
Yeah.
comfort.
Oh yeah. And that's if for me, it's like, okay, all I want is just cremation. It's layman term. What is direct cremation? What is simple cremation? But this is me. I get it. I just want cremation.
That goes back to what I said about using language they understand.
Right.
Direct cremation is our term.
Mm-hmm.
No one says I want direct cremation. I heard somebody say, well, aren't all cremations direct? Of course they are. What they're really saying is, I want a cremation without a service.
Right.
So your
Exactly.
language could be cremation without a service.
Right.
Same thing instead of saying direct cremation or direct burial, because it feels like you're just taking my loved one and you're going to do this and then that's that. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And then
So
we'll show other examples because we got examples of packages. But
yep.
maybe Ellery, I'll let you talk a little more, and I'll show some screen
Okay.
as
Yeah.
well.
So on that there, I liked what what he was showing there because it instills trust. It's at all-inclusive pricing. Okay, which means what I'm looking at is what I'm paying.
Yeah.
No hidden fees, which I'm not going to have any gotchas. And
Mhm.
and remember too that some of these consumers that are coming to these websites, if they've been online, they're finding information online from people that don't like the funeral business very much. So they're
Mhm.
being warned to watch out when
Right.
they're shopping at a funeral
Oh, yeah.
home. So anything you can do to combat that, there are a lot of people that just don't like the funeral business and they're saying, watch out that, they're going to gouge you. They're going to take advantage of
Right.
you. So everything you can do to be transparent,
Right.
Just is just giving them comfort, and they're putting their guard down. Every time you do something that instills trust, imagine they're coming there thinking that you're going to screw them over, forgive the
Right.
language, right? But that you're going to just take them to the bank. And sometimes I've seen publications like ARP did this one time, and a couple other ones. They said, make sure you take a friend to the funeral home with you. And they're not really talking about emotional support. They're
Right.
talking about to make sure that you
Exactly.
have a level-headed person in the room, so you don't make emotional decisions and the funeral director take advantage of you.
Right.
We need to, if we're not putting information out there that's trustworthy and we're not combating that negative information, then we're kind of helping that negative information. So do
Right.
things that when they come there, just let them take their guard down, right?
Right.
And so I love the way that language was on there. So again, I like the ranges because it lets people kind of say, hey, I have this amount of money and this is what I can buy for it. Showing packages. This is my personal favorite. I like this best because I like things side by side, right? I like seeing what I can buy for this price, what all this includes and what all this includes. I really like that. I think that the packages, in my opinion, are the best because it allows you to demonstrate value. Okay. So if you're saying the price is X, now what you're saying is here's what I'm giving you for X. And then if here's your price is Y, here's what you're getting for Y. And
Right.
then as a consumer, what I can do is I can look at that and say, okay, well, I get one more option with B over here, and that's more money. Then I can say, okay, is this increase in money worth this
it.
other
Right.
service? So to me, it's just a comparable thing, right? I like that part of it. But so I like that because it demonstrates value and it shows differentiation. What are your thoughts on packages, Welton?
Me too. I love packages, and typically it's package of 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easy, and most likely people typically choose the middle one, as we typically know.
Right, and that's just psychology, right?
Yes,
If there's 2, they're going to pick the lowest one,
right.
right? All marketers understand if you have 3, they're most likely going to choose the middle one.
Middle one.
You had a couple examples,
Yes.
right? Okay, and again, these will be in the show notes on the website.
Right. So here's another example with a table format and with catchy title right at the top again with pricing. So $11.95, I just want cremation,
I love that.
and just list out the basic things that came along with the $11.95. Right, transport to our secure facility. It's secured, right? And then the middle one here is simple cremation, $13.95. Right, this is what's included. For example, $95 earn allowance, and then it slowly goes up. Celebration with cremation with community celebration, and the one I really like is cremation and final goodbye.
Oh, I love that.
Very, very simple. Okay, if I'm reading this table here, I can tell that's a private family viewing. That's 30 minutes. It's simple to understand. It doesn't mean it's cheap. It keeps on going up in packages, right? But some families, they just gravitate towards, hey, I just want the best of the best.
Yeah.
Actually, wow, it's not that bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I like the language on here. One thing I'll point out on this here is the ability to differentiate yourself and add value. And I think before I say what I'm going to say, let's remind the audience that consumers are not always looking for the lowest price.
No.
Period. If you don't believe me, let someone else tell you. It's the truth, right? They're looking for value. That's
Right.
what they're buying. If you sell price, it's just a bad strategy. So use these pricing tables, right? Or use these packages as a way to differentiate yourself. So I'm going to point out one. If you're not watching this on video, go get this one image. If nothing else, get this one. On here, it says cremation and a final goodbye. I love it. Instead of short visitation or something like that, they use nice language. But what it says on here is cremation performed on site. Now, what they're doing right there is they're taking and saying, your loved one never leaves our care.
Right.
And I've seen that before, right? And I think it's really good. And if you own your own crematory, you need to sell that feature, right? You need to sell the fact that you own your own crematory, and you can say things like, your loved one never leaves our care. I saw one crematory operator or one cremation service that had their own crematory really use that to their advantage. And I'm not going to name names here, but they actually had pictures of the other cremation services in their town, and they showed where these retorts were.
Whoa,
It
wow.
was, one of them looked like a shack. I'm not kidding you. And I thought, man, that is a gangster move, right? They literally showed, and I thought, wow, that, who would want their mom going there?
Right.
That just, so you don't have to do that.
Yep.
You can use language like your loved one never leaves our care. We own our own crematory. Everything is done on site. It's not
Right.
jobbed out. Not that there's anything wrong with using a third party crematory. Many funeral services do. But if you have your own crematory, use it to your advantage. Help to differentiate yourself so people aren't saying, you're $13.95, you're $12.95. Well, your $13.95 might be a better value to them because their loved one never has to leave that property.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So what he's showing you now is another funeral home website that's very similar, and it's got the packages on it. What I'll point out really quick on this is that it's got two options on here. It's got arrange now and then pre-arrange. And this is the first time I've ever seen this, where they have a pre-arrange button and an arrange button on these packages. So go ahead and tell them what you're seeing on here, Welton.
Right. So there's 3 columns over here. It's very, very simple. So $21.95 all-inclusive cremation. The next column here, which is the middle one, is $28.95 simple cremation with viewing. And the next one will be $32.95 traditional funeral with cremation. In very simple to use words again, we bring your loved one into our care.
I love that.
All necessary paperwork. It's like all necessary paperwork. If for me, it's like, oh, wow, okay. All necessary paperwork is all included already. 5,
yeah, I don't have to worry about it.
Right. 5 certified copies of death certificate, even $175 earned allowance. So there's like everything spelled out to me. It's like nothing hidden over here. If I need arrange now, then this will walk me through the arrangement process, or most likely were me, I would just call them up. Still, most families do call in, because once they do a light research, transparent, they're just going to call. Or if they're pre-arranging, they're just going to click on the pre-arrange button, most likely just walk through a few processes, but I still firmly believe most people just call. But it's easy. Now, right away, they instill trust. You guys are transparent. And very often when they call, you can still ascend them. It doesn't mean they won't have questions anymore. They might still have questions, but they're more educated, they feel a lot more confident, and you can still ascend them into other services, upgrade them into other packages as well.
Oh, I love it. You said a lot there. You said that it instills trust, and I agree with that. And if you look at what these pricing options are, is there an opportunity for you to win, getting your name in the hat? Right.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to the next step. And so if you think about these consumers, they're, step one is they're Googling somebody, right? So you got to show up there. And I know somebody that can help you with that, Welton. Okay. You got to show up there. The second step is you have to have a website that will, bring them in and let them know that you can do what they want to do, right? That there's trust there. And then when you get to the pricing table, which is very important, they're definitely coming for price. You have to explain to them what they're getting, instill trust, and then get them to say, okay, I'm looking at something here. I think this will work for me. Doesn't mean you're going to win the call, but you have to get to this point. You have to get past this hurdle before they'll ever call you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is really your kind of, it's showtime right here, right? You have to do this in a way that makes them take that next step.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and you could reverse engineer this thing if you really wanted to get analytical about it. You could, watch your traffic and see people come to this site, to this page right here, and you look at the bounce rate, right, which is a technical term. But if you look at the bounce rate and people leave this page really quick, well, you've lost them, right? You didn't have a page that resonated with them. Maybe we can talk about that on another episode on how to do that. But yeah, so I really like this. It really kind of tells me everything about it. And also, the way this one is designed, I love this one. And I can tell you that whoever designed this page understood the questions and concerns of the people coming to this. right? They're concerned about paperwork. They're concerned about, the pricing. I love the earn allowance thing. I think that's a genius idea because it's not saying, you get a $175 earn. Well, I don't even know what kind of earn that is. So what's really saying to them is that, you're going to get to choose what you buy, whatever earn you have is yours, but we're going to give you this much toward it. Right. So yeah, I really like that idea. Did you have another one, or is that the last one you had?
That's the last one. And just another example here is once they click on arrange now, it's again, just simple, a lot of white spaces, reiterates what they're going to get again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's clean. It's very, very clean design.
Yeah. Leave this up for 1 second because my next point on here, the one tip I would have is if you're going to do packages or really ranges at all, do it with good design.
Right.
I have a couple bad examples that I'm going to put on there as well. I'm going to redact the names, but I have one that's got packages on there, but it looks like it looks like a Word document.
Right.
And it's just like, and everything. So what you get, it would be like, use of the funeral chapel, comma, transportation, comma, you know what I mean? It was just like this. It was a really ugly design.
Right.
And so what you're looking at on the screen is, it says, we bring your loved one into our care, and it's got a picture of a vehicle, right? All necessary paperwork, and it's got an icon of paperwork. And the spacing on here is very, very nice. I'm a designer at heart, so I really like this. What you're doing is you're really giving somebody an easy way to see, kind of what they're getting. I think design, and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, I think design is a science, right? And it's an art. And I think typography is an art. And I think that layout is an art. So, but I don't think people see it. I think that some people can see it and say, I think that looks great, and it might not look great. Okay. But so some of the best investment you could make would be to have somebody really design your packages and design your page. If nothing else, design the pricing page that gives you the best option of getting that customer, to the next step.
Right.
I really love the way this is a good example for you guys to see about that. So just use good design, use good layout. If you have 4 packages, put them in corners, right? So there's a quad of them, right? And make it very simple to understand, make the pricing relevant, give the packages names that make sense. Right, like the one you had, simple cremation with a final goodbye. Just do stuff that makes the consumer feel good about it.
Right.
All right.
Not package A, B, C, D.
Yeah. Please don't give your package a number, right, or a letter. Please don't do that. So the last way that you could show your prices online is to use a quote builder. Now, I love this, right? I like this because it allows me to control what that final outcome is. I get to turn all the knobs and dials. I understand that whatever price I get is what I chose.
Right.
What are your thoughts on using quote wilders or price generators or whatever you want to call them?
Quote builders, or being a geek, when I buy computers, I go on deal.com. It might start up as a package, but then you get an add-on, you get a subtract.
You can customize it.
Pricing on there right away. Oh, wow, I didn't know, wow, it's so expensive now. Let me remove a few things away. But full transparency, it walks me through step by step. At RAMs, at this, at extra storage. It's just simple. And with a little question mark and the hit, gives me a lot more, about what this actually is. So I love that step by step funnel.
Yeah. I've seen that before too on some pricing things that I've bought. There'll be like a name of something and a price, and then what he's describing is a little question mark next to it. You click that and it'll open up, it'll describe what that is. And so I think that's actually a great point if we jump back to the GPL, that if you're going to put your GPL on there, maybe you could have one of these little question marks next to each thing that explains. They call them tool tips is what they call them, where you hover over them and then a little pop-up comes up that shows you kind of what explains what that is.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that idea. I like quote builders too, because it lets me kind of in my own mind kind of come up with my own price. And your example with Dell, I've done that before, and I get to the end, I'm like, wow, that's kind of expensive, let me go back. Right, let me take something off of there. So again, it kind of lets you do that. For the consumer, you're going to make the consumer feel like they're in control of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that's important. I think they're trustworthy. I'll throw this out here. I like quote builders because it's 2020, right? You should be able to, customize everything online now.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the tech companies have these now. If they don't, I think they certainly will as more people are doing these things online. I think you're going to see those. My only tip with a quote builder, and I've seen this done both ways, keep it short and keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Make the sale before you ask all of the biographical information.
Right.
You do not need to know the age of the person to give them a price, right?
No.
Please don't ask for weight. I've seen that before too, and I guess, well, I shouldn't say that, it's your business, but to me, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could use a quote builder and then give an approximate price.
Right.
Because going back to the last episode, and I really do encourage everyone to go back and listen to that because I think it's got some good information. I think one really clear point we made last time, or we tried to make, was that I don't believe that consumers are looking for an exact price.
No.
Right? I think they're looking for a good idea. Right. And so if you don't worry if you can't give them a down to the penny price, that final check amount will be dependent upon some things they choose that maybe go up or down. I don't think they're looking for an exact price, in my opinion. So
Yeah, even the price builder, they're just looking for approximate range again. So when they call you, they just feel a lot more in control. They already know what they want approximately. It doesn't mean they won't change their mind. When they call you, you still can explain more things to them. Hey, it looks like you're missing this and that.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The thing I like too about the quote builders, it allows you, most of them, they won't give you the final price. They won't let you see the price until you put in your name and email address. Well, you're going to capture that lead.
Right.
And, without being aggressive, I think
Right.
there's an easy way to fire off an email back to them that says, well, and thank you so much for being at the website. Here's the information that you chose, right? Here's some frequently asked questions. And more
Right.
importantly, here's how to contact us when you're ready.
Right.
Right. And so it's just an easy way to fire something back off to them. And the tech companies can all do that for you very, very easily.
These
So,
are not hard to build. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Um, you know, I think probably some takeaways from this would be, use language that they can understand, right? Think back to yourself. If you can just remove your funeral hat, try to look at that website, try to stare at it like a consumer that's never planned a funeral before, and really think to yourself, what are they thinking? What information are they looking for? How does this make them feel?
Right.
Show pricing in a way that they can understand. Again, we look at this every day. They don't. Use language, make it so they can understand. And then to me, I think that you should use your pricing to demonstrate value.
Right. Yep.
So if your competitor's using it against you and they're saying, well, they charge this, well, that's right. You do charge this because here's everything you're getting.
Right.
Right. So it's a really good way to articulate the value that you provide.
Right.
What else do you think about that, Weldon? You have anything else you want to add?
No, I think yes. Just if your competitors also have pricing on their website as well, then it might make sense here and there to also put a table comparing you versus them, right? If you're charging, let's say, $1,800 for cremation, and they're charging $990, and well, no, most likely it's bait and switch. Sometimes, if it makes sense, then you put a table on your website comparing, very, very simple table, what theirs don't include, what yours include. So having pricing on your website typically should be helping you, not working against you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that goes back to the putting something on there that says all inclusive.
Right.
This includes everything, no
Right.
hidden fees.
Yep.
You can absolutely use what your competitors are doing to your advantage.
Right.
It reminds me of the story of the person that there was a barber shop in town, and someone opened up a barber shop across the street and said haircuts $5. Right, and it was half of what the other guy was charging. So the other guy put up a sign that said, "We fix $5 haircuts." And so he took what they were doing and he used it to his advantage.
Right.
I loved it. So yeah, you can definitely do that. Again, I think there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and I think the only way if it's the right way to do it is if it helps the consumer. It's the right way to do it.
I agree.
Okay. That's the test. If it helps the consumer, that's the right way to do it. We are going to have at least one other episode on pricing. It might not be the next one, but what we're going to talk about is how to elevate your GPL and by design. What I mean by that is, instead of these things looking like, a mortgage document, that they're going to look like something that they can understand. Because here's a tip: when somebody walks in and you hand them a GPL, you now have an opportunity to put something in their hand that is a marketing piece. It can have the GPL information in there, but it can also be used to sell your services, to market who you are, so that when that thing goes home, because maybe it's going home with them with 2 other GPLs, right? Mm-hmm. Or, we don't know. We know that people don't shop very many funeral homes, but whenever they do, whenever you have a chance to give somebody a physical document, a piece of paper, or something in their hand, don't waste that opportunity, right? Use that as an opportunity to really sell who you are and kind of, what you do. So if you're listening to this on any of the podcast channels, we would really appreciate you going to leave us a review. Share it with your friends. But again, we really do appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully you found some value out of this. Hopefully there were some good ideas you can take out of this. And if you go to elevatingfuneralservice.com, this is episode 7, and you can look, and all of the images that we showed on screen will be there as well. And then of course, just reach out to myself or Welton if you guys have any questions or want clarity on anything else. So we do appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later. Okay, see you.
Bye.